So today, we're gonna be looking at a comedy fantasy movie called The Eighth Day of the Week. This movie is all about one girl, Jing Wei. In the opening shot, we get a slow pan across her room as we learn a little bit about her. She likes to draw. She likes to dance. She likes pop stars. It's a fantasized about weddings, and basically every cliché a teenage girl trope you can think of. Oh, yeah. And she likes to eat too. This is a big theme in poor Yang's life, and she knows it. Talk about self-awareness, but Yang knows that she has problems. Whether it be her schooling, her eating, or the boy who she likes that she knows she has no chance with. What Yang needs, what she tells us that she needs, is a miracle. The opening of the film is dedicated to proving to us just how hopeless this girl's life is. She's riding her bike, but typically falls off right away. She runs for student council. But as you can see here, she's shy and nervous and barely manages to get a word out. Oh, and when she does, the student body kinda laugh at her. And that boy she likes, he seems nice enough, but she's too darn shy to go and talk to him. You know what? She doesn't let that get her down though, despite how unpopular she is, and how bad she is at studying. She still wants to run for the school council. Unfortunately, she's up against some seriously stiff competition. Choi. She's the pretty smart popular one, and you would think this would be enough for her, but it isn't. Choi and her friend discuss the upcoming elections as they eat lunch. And although they're thrilled, that choice on the top, the very fact that Yang has even a single vote, seems to upset them terribly. To make matters worse, the two girls turn around and check out Jing work in that cafeteria to get some more votes in. She's asking everyone she can. And even though most seem to reject her, bless her heart, she keeps going. That's until Bully decides it'll be a good time to steal her bag and throw it up a tree for no reason other than he doesn't like her. And just to prove that everyone in this school has it in for poor Jing. They stand about and watch and laugh as she's forced to climb that tree and get her backpack. If you think this is as bad as things are gonna get for Jang Weio, then I got some bad news for you. And Jang too. She arrives at class a little later, only to find the popular girl Choi in a panic. Someone has stolen her wallet right out of her bag. And wouldn't she know it somehow, that wallet found its way into Yang's bag instead. The entire class accuses her of stealing, despite the fact that she's pleading innocence. See, the point here we're making is that her life is really messed up. And if she's gonna have any chance of turning it around, she might need some help, some magical help, preferably. And as luck has it, that night, while she's wallowing in her misery, an old lady suddenly appears from nowhere. This old woman seems a little too perceptive for her own good, knowing things about her a girl that a random lady on the street really shouldn't know. She ain't freaking out, but the old lady tells her not to worry because she's gonna help. She does some stuff with her hands, and the next minute, Jang wakes up in her own bed. It's the following morning, and seeing as she's late for school, she forgets all about this old lady stuff and hurries to get ready. But on the way out, she spots a random bracelet on her table. Thinking nothing of it, she just puts it on. But this is no ordinary bracelet. Once it's on, Chong touches a button in the center and a countdown timer appears for 24 hours. Jan can't see this though, wistfully wandering from her room and into the kitchen where her mom's waiting. Oh, wait. No. She doesn't. She was calling out a second earlier, but now she's gone. Jan doesn't think much of that and just goes off to school. On the way she stops by a food stand where the owner is gone. Even though he's left the food on the fryer and at the school too. She hangs hurrying through the hallway thinking to herself, you know, she's late. After running through every single part of that school, literally, she runs through every single hallway and room that she can see. She finally realizes that she's alone. So what does Jing do with this earth-shattering discovery? She commits a few pranks. Of course, she spots Troy's bike in the parking lot and hoists it up to the top of the basketball ring. She spots some fresh paint and decides to do a little graffiti. She goes back to that empty food stand and eats everything she can get her hands on. You know, it just might be the best day in this girl's life. Things are back to normal the next morning. Jan wakes up to find her mom's return, as well as the rest of the world, which means it's back to punching down on poor Jing. Now it's not really clear if this girl remembers the previous day or not, because she's acting pretty normal about the whole thing. That is until she arrives at school only to see the effect of her pranks in action. That bike that she strapped to the hoop now has its owner sitting on top of it on the hoop somehow. And that graffiti she painted, that's still there too. She can't believe this. She hurries home and tries to explain it to her mother. But she gets a little overexcited. And what comes out is basically gibberish. See what I mean? No wonder her mom doesn't believe her. But Jang's anxiety is about to be put to rest when she walks into her bedroom only to find that same lady there. It turns out the previous day did happen, and the reason for it that bracelet that Jane found and put on. Now the old lady goes on to explain that the bracelet is a special kind of magic that gives the wearer an extra 24 hours a week to use as they wish. Once they hit that button, the wearer sinks into another dimension where everyone else disappears and they can do whatever they want until the time runs out, or they hit that button again. Now the idea here, of course, is that its wearer can use this extra time to better themselves and improve their life. But we get a sense pretty early on that she's not about that, ready to take advantage of this whole thing. And wouldn't you know it? We were right. Obviously, the first thing she does, as any teenage girl would likely do, is break into the home of the boy she likes. Kupak. He's the smart, attractive, sporty one of her class. And she's been crushing on him for a while. After wandering through his bedroom, she comes upon his study spot, and this is when she comes up with an idea. She sits down at the desk, writes him a note acting as if she's some magical force from another world. She then signs that note as Pi, her new secret identity. When Ku finds this note, he naturally dismisses it, but then he turns the page and there's another one. This one calling him out for not believing that it's real. Now Ku has no choice but to believe this. Her plan worked perfectly, but she's not done yet. Next, she goes and sees her teacher and begs him to believe that it wasn't she who stole that wallet. She uses the weird incidents that have been happening around the school lately as an example as to why it wasn't her, and her teacher doesn't believe any of that. But he is willing to change his mind if something else strange happens. For example, if the desk he's sitting at suddenly disappears, ask and you shall receive. The teacher blinks and suddenly is in the bathroom with his table, having no idea how he got there. Well, a true believer now, the teacher addresses class and tells them that Zhang was innocent in the wallet fiasco. Period. Finally, things are starting to turn around for our poor girl. Now we're starting to get to the next phase of our movie, where Jian gets drunk on her own power. She starts by continuing her mysterious relationship with Copa, disguise this Pi, of course. She tells them jokes. They talk about school and really just normal teenage things. She's able to be open and honest with him in a way that she never could in real life. And what's more, he seems to be really liking her. Later on, she accidentally bumps into the assistant principal and notices that he's preparing the upcoming holiday schedule for the students. She hits that bracelet, steals his papers, and changes them to add more holidays, 10 days of holidays. In fact, when the teachers see this, they try and confirm, but the assistant principal's being a bit of a dick about it. This, of course, sees the students celebrate like they've just been told they never have to go back to school again. And Esta Jiang, she's sitting back, gloating quietly, knowing that this is all thanks to her. Now that night, she's watching Kuo and a few others play football. The other team's better than they are and make a pretty good effort in kicking their butts, but then enters Jing. She continually uses that bracelet during the game, moving all around so that Ciyu's team has the most possession. This season score nearly a dozen goals and just win that game. Who knows, course, that Jing or Pi was the one helping him win this thing. He forgives her and tells her that he just wants the two of them to be closer. She ain't thus realizing that if she really wants to get her man, She needs to start studying and paying attention to her grades like him. Finally, looks like Jane might start using this bracelet for the right. No. Wait. She's gonna use it to cheat instead. During their next exam, Jane uses the bracelet again. And whenever one disappears, she skirts that classroom and copies off everyone's test until she has all the best answers. It's an amazing success too. And this little maneuver sees her shoot to the top of the class. At first, this appears to be exactly what she wants. She starts studying with her boy in real life, and for the first time, he's like noticing her. The magical version of her pie even works up the courage to tell him that she is actually an angel, that she's a student with magical powers that she can only use. He wants to meet her, but Yang still isn't so sure. And things go in the wrong direction when Yang's high test scores come back to bite her. Because she's now seen as being so smart and clever, the other students start asking her for help on their own quizzes. With Ku watching, she has no choice but to help. So she uses her bracelet again and spends the hours trying to figure out these answers, and then reappearing and acting as if, she knew it all along. But then another student comes in. And another. Soon there are dozens just crowding around her, and suddenly, Jang started to see the downside to cheating. The other downside to this is that Choi is beginning to become jealous of Jing and her newfound popularity with Kuo. I guess just being the hot girl isn't enough for Choi. One day during gym class, the teacher asks for volunteers to run a race, and Choi tricks Jae into volunteering. Next, she gets out her camera and starts to record, knowing that Yang is gonna embarrass herself, and she'll have the whole thing recorded to show everyone. But as expected, Jan uses that bracelet, shoots herself to the front of the race, winning the whole thing much to the delight of her classmates. Choi's pissed. So pissed that she and her friends studied the video recording and noticed that something isn't quite right. They don't know what it is, but something about that bracelet clearly is helping Jing. Not that our girl knows any of this. Finally, she agreed to meet Ku in real life. And she tells him that she'll be wearing a white dress, and that's how he'll recognize her. First, though, she needs a white dress to wear. She finds the perfect one too on display in a store. But when she finds out the price, she knows she can't afford it. Now old Yang might have walked out and left it at that, but new Yang decides to do the not-so-nice thing and use her bracelet once again. She steals that dress is what she does, telling herself that it's just borrowing. But we all know that's a big fat lie. Meanwhile, Joy and her friend work together to steal the bracelet when she hangs in the shower. Next, they sneak away and try it on, only for nothing to happen. The power of the bracelet only works for our girl, but Troy doesn't let this stop her. She sneaks into that classroom when no one's there and goes through Jae Yang's things. She finds all the notes she was writing to Ku, and we get the sense that this is gonna come back to bite Jong hard. And finally, just in case you didn't hate Choi enough already, she throws that bracelet in the bin. Without the magic of the bracelet, Chong has no choice but to cheat on her next exam. Otherwise, her grades will drop, and everyone will be suspicious about what happened. She goes on cheating in the most obvious way and is immediately caught by her teacher. This sees her mom get called to school, where Jan's trying to explain that it's not what it looks like. But without the bracelet to help her, things continue to just pile on for Jing. The owner of that store where she stole the dress suddenly walks into the principal's office. Turns out that Jing left her book behind when she was there. And the woman's here to drop it off. When she sees our girl, she recognizes her, but then she finds that stolen dress in Yang's bag naturally. Her mother's not too happy about this. And if that's not enough, she gives her daughter a good slap across the face. How? Mortified, Jang's fleeing from the room and the school. There's no escape in the rumor mill that follows, and we see it literally begin to spread as word grows from Jing being a thief to the very made-up rumor that the police are gonna arrest her. And still, things keep on getting worse. Jane goes on a mission of self-discovery. Is really just her at the local trash art smashing bottles as she contemplates what she's done. By pure luck, she finds that bracelet again, or maybe it's magic, let's go with magic. Either way, she finds her bracelet, but realizes that it's too late. The next day, she goes to where she was supposed to be meeting Koo, only for Troy to be there in a white dress pretending to be Pi. What? Choi even knows about the joke that Jang made on that first day and uses it to convince Koo that she is Pi. Slick. All while Jang watches from behind a tree. She thus runs away from home, choosing to live in a random warehouse rather than face her mother. It's kinda sad too because her mom's clearly distraught even going out on the street searching for her girl, but she hangs too ashamed to come home. Next, we skip forward an entire year. Yeah. Whole year, which isn't even the weirdest part about this film, to find Young living on the street scrounging for rubbish or something. It's not really clear what she's doing, but as luck has it, and God, she needs some by now. That same old lady from earlier suddenly appears again, but the old lady explains to her the true meaning of the bracelet. It's not about cheating your way through life, but rather, it's about using the extra time to better yourself as a person, to improve yourself in a way that others can't with time restraints of a normal life. Honestly, she could have said this on the first day, but Jang is still distraught. Her mother hates her. She was kicked out of school. What is she gonna do? The old lady tells her that she's gonna have to face these problems on her own. No magic can solve it. How convenient. So taking the old lady's advice, Jang decides to go home. And as we all probably expect, that her mother is really glad that she's home, and she doesn't punish her for cheating or stealing. And next she goes back to class. Everyone's mean to her again as they know that she's a cheat, but she rises above it and is happy to study in silence. And then finally, she gets about using the bracelet properly. She spends her extra day running and exercising. She stops eating junk food all the time. She studies hard and works for her grades. It's like watching your kid literally grow before your eyes. She then breaks in a cruise room again and sees that he hasn't forgotten about her. He knew that Troy was lying and is still desperate to meet her one day. This more than anything justifies Jing in her new aspiration to be a better person. We cut forward an unknown amount of time, and Jing is suddenly thin. Think she's played by a different actress because, well, whatever. That's not the point. Anyways, she walks through school with a newfound sense of confidence, and indeed, we see some of the boys noticing her for the first time. She then goes to class where we see that she's now at the top of her class, all because she studied and actually put in the work in for a change rather than cheating. Finally, there's just one thing left for her to do, and we all know what that is. That hottie Koo needs to know who she is so they can fall in love and live happily ever after. And wouldn't you know it? He even seeks her out the next day asking if she's who he thinks she is. If she's Pi, but Hang is too shy to admit it. He can't believe it. And to be honest, neither can I, but that night sees her have a change of heart. She hastily writes him a note in the next day. She hurries to his house only to find him gone. A note is left behind in which he expresses regret. He regrets that he isn't the one who she thought he was, that he isn't this great smart man who's kind and caring. If he was, he would have known who she was right away. He would have been able to see it. And worse than all of this, he's going home for good, far away from here, and out of Jane's life. Oh, desperate now. She's hopping on her bike and hurries to the train station. She uses the bracelet, but it's almost out of minutes and runs out before she gets there. At the station she's hurrying down the platform, screaming for Cool. When she finds him, he's on the train and she can't get his attention. So she does the only thing she can think of. She writes a confession form on the platform, which he just sees in the nick of time. She's screaming for him, but there's nothing he can do. Now if this was a normal movie, I would expect the train to stop in for Kuda. You know, jump off, run into her arms. Two are gonna kiss, credits roll. But instead of all that, the train takes off, doesn't return, and Jang's left alone. Seriously, she doesn't even get the guy at the end. Love it. See, that's real. But it isn't all bad news. On the platform is that old lady once again. This time with a young chubby boy in tears. This kid's crying that his life sucks, and Jing, seeing a piece of herself and him, offers him the bracelet. She no longer needs it. Haven't grown into the person she always thought that she could be. And I guess it was sort of a happy ending after all, if you look at that way.